Okay, it's working now. Woohoo! Okay, so hopefully everyone got to see C/2022 E3. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing? There's hopefully some spare seats. Yeah.
One here. All right, okay.
There's one next to me. There's up the front.
I don't ask any questions from next to you. That
Yeah.
don't have any answers, tragically, to anything.
In fact, if you two pop yourself down there. Another one. Cool. There you go. Standing room only. Okay, yes. So welcome. So hopefully everyone did get to see the comet.
No.
It was a bit green and dull. It was definitely not a Neo-wise. It was more Kahootek. But if you know anything from the 70s, big fuss about Comet Kahootek, and it actually did nothing. But this time it was visible in binoculars, and you could watch it go through. It just wasn't spectacular, but it was a nice comet, and with a telescope you could see some tail definition. And as soon as you got a camera on it, you probably got some nice photos. Did you get any nice photos? Yeah, I've got a photo here. Yeah, okay. It's the usual blurb. We meet last Wednesday, but you've worked that out because you're here, so that's good. Membership currently runs at 101, and you've got these 8 beautiful people looking after you. So if you see them in the street, stop them and say, "You're a Bath astronomer, aren't you?" Just to embarrass them as much as possible. Mike is currently in Barbados, so I don't think there's any embarrassing Mike because he's just relaxing, and apparently he's just having wonderful blue skies and starlit skies, and he's sending me photos, and I'm just telling him to off. Come back to Bristol and have your light pollution. Yeah, so great. Actually working. Right, so talking of light pollution, it's the star count. We're in the middle of the CPRE star count for 2023. This is the top down. This is a satellite image, and actually dates back to Night Flight, which is 2016. But you get a lovely image there of Bath and all the lovely light pollution. But if you think that's bad, it's not too bad if you just go out to some of the sort of outskirts of Bath. It drops very quite quickly, and then actually down here you get into some reasonably dark skies, and north as well, some reasonably good place. So up to north of Axel isn't too much of a drive, and actually down to Coombe and Wellow, where we actually observe quite often, is down here. So it's not too bad. If you go a bit further south, and currently I'm looking at a site just here, which is in the nice dark bit. Unfortunately, it's a bit more country lane, so some people aren't going to like me for that. But there's a potential site just there, and with 2 friendly, 1 landowner, 1 farmer. So you never know. So it's all about sort of trying to make a record of this, because this is the top down, but actually it's slightly different when you look up. And so we have a star count. It used to be every 5 or so years. But they changed it over to make it an annual event because it appeared to be changing so fast. And so this is the star count webpage. You just do CPRE star count 2023 or just star count. It'll link you through to this. You can register, which means you'll get loads of information through. But we've already started, and we've got really until this Friday. So I'll be taking readings until this Friday. Tomorrow night is scheduled to be clear in Bath. So cancel everything you've got. Get outside and do your star count tomorrow night, is my advice for you, because you'll be able to get one in for this year. And to make it easier, that'll get you to the page. You don't have to do a lookup. So bathaastronomers.org.uk, star count 2023, and to actually, it's a different page to put your count in. So it's star count 2023 submit on the end of bathaastronomers.org.uk. If you can't, sort of use Google. So that's the solution. I'm replacing Google with easy find links. So you're looking again at, hopefully everyone knows Orion, lovely bright Milky Way that happens all the time. This isn't just Stellarium. And you've got Taurus up here, but here's our Orion with our belt stars and pointing down to Sirius. So we're interested in making an area in there that everyone can count, because Orion's nice and easy to see, and the more stars you count, the less light pollution. It's that simple. They do it during the week of the new moon, again, so that there's no natural light pollution that might affect. So that's what you see. Yeah. So that's that. You count within Betelgeuse, Bellatrix, Rigel, and Safe here, but you don't count those 4 stars, and you count everything you can see within there. You can sort of, if you don't know actually what kind of location you're in, you can check. If you can count up to 6 stars, then you're in a city according to the classifications. Up to 8, you're into just a city sky. 17, suburban, urban. 24, you're in bright suburban. I challenged that actually, because I think I'm actually between a 4 and a 5 here on the Bortle scale, and I can't count 26 to 33, but perhaps I'm wrong about where I live. So they just going to a star chart and trying to pull out all the stars, it's hard to see. So if we black and white, there's actually lots. There's about 60 odd stars on an absolutely perfect location with wonderful seeing, and in the highest point in the sky and whatever. But really, the maximum people are reporting is about 40 that they can see with the human eye. You have to have amazing sort of wow vision to see any more than the 40, and you need to be, those are from really dark sky areas to see 40 odd plus.
I didn't think that Orion's belt counted for the star count, but you're saying it does.
Yes, it does, and most people count the nebula as well. Okay, so you see 1 and you see 2. So some people see 3 stars here. Well, actually, one of them is definitely the nebula, but people count that in their count. So it's acceptable to count that. The ones you mustn't count are Betelgeuse, Bellatrix, Rigel, and Safe. Those ones you're not allowed to count. But anything else, you can count. Okay, so get counting. Hopefully tomorrow night. Enjoy. 2022, that's all the counts from 2022. If we zoom in on Bath, then you see that we've got a few here. There aren't actually many counts, but we had atrocious weather in 2022. So that's why there's not so many counts. The year before wasn't so bad in terms of weather. So it's 2021, we've got a lot more counts, especially in Bristol. There's a huge amount, and not so bad in Bath. But it'd be great to get lots more dots around this year. And if you want to drive in your car, so there'll be Salford. So one of his, this is where Jonathan lives. Has Jonathan come back from the door yet? Yeah, I want to stop speaking. Yeah. Yeah, so one of these, so if you want to travel around, or if you want to get in the car and just stop 15 minutes to account, and then just go to some of your favourite places, perhaps around Bath, and do that. So like you might do the Park and Ride. That's one of my favourite places. And just get a few in, it would be quite good. I did that the previous year, 2019. There were loads. I actually did a ring around Bath. And so I sort of got lots of counts in. You don't have to do one, you just do a count at a location. You can try another if you really want to help them out. So that's the star count. So why not help Jen in doing the star counts? Saturday 11th of March, for those that didn't know, there's a practical astronomy show. This one's different from the Astrofest in London. And this one's free. So we all like free. So I think there's a number of people driving up. Are you driving up there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hiding in the field the night before.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's recommended. It's not quite as slick as Astrofest, but it's quite nice because that, in some ways, that's more me than the Astrofest. And it's all about just the astronomy and not the personalities and things. That's kind of nice. So it's worth going in. And the other advertisement is 18th of March. You need to be here. This is Wellow Village Hall. Actually, where we normally or used to, and not so frequently now, but this is actually where we stop to do our observing from Wellow, just in the car park just here. So if you know where we go to do that, we should just turn off the high street and up here and along. Right? It's actually opposite. So if you know where we go in Wellow, it's easy to find the village hall because it's just the opposite side of the road. Okay, small dog leg, but it's opposite side of the road. The pub's just over here, Jonathan, so that's where you'll be based.
Very good, it's our shop.
I did actually think when doing this, I was going to include the pub, but I thought, no, I'm not going to include the pub, but at least it got a mention, that's good. So we've got all this area to use. I'm trying to I have contacted the tennis club to book these because they have floodlighting on them. And if anyone comes along and books those, then it completely wipes out this entire area. As we found out when we tried to do this previously, eventually the couple that were playing tennis got the message that there were 20 people giving them evils, and they moved on. But I'm trying to book the courts so that we don't have that problem that evening. So we'll have the mobile planetarium there, we'll have some telescopes there, the option to come outside, all along here and look up and enjoy the Messier Marathon. So if we get the EV scopes out and sort of have a good go at seeing how many of the 110 Messier objects we can possibly get. On a perfect night, you're not going to get more than 80 really. Maybe if you really are slick, you might get up towards the high 90s. But getting 50 or so, 60 is well within our means. So if anyone wants to have that challenge, bring your own tipple and some nibbles, and we can just make it a social in there. You can make cups of tea, you can enjoy, and sort of we can have a real sort of astro nerdism dash chat dash whatever you want. We'll probably have, if my maestro of the planetarium can make it, I'm not sure if you can make it, Merrick, hopefully you can. Have you cancelled everything?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because he does a wonderful three-piece suit when he goes into the planetarium. It's an absolute wonderful sight. It's the most wonderful, elegant way of being guided into a planetarium. So if you are available, Merrick, I much appreciate it. That would be good. And we've got follow-on talks. So we did have Pete, who's going to come talk to us about Herschel to Hawkwind. Because of ill health and family issues, he's cancelled. So I've got a remote talk, Martin Lang, coming in. He's called the Astronomer and also the Rambling Astronomer. So he does radio shows and things like that, but he's a real character and great with his talks. We've got Ian Ridpath, then Dr. Hannah Waitford will be coming to see us in May. And then Mary McIntyre, depending on how much money Prim pays me, we'll be doing a talk on women in astronomy part 2, or other things. We're having a bit of a sweepstake, because these talkers are great, but they have like 10, 15, 20 talks that they do. So picking one is always quite a challenge. So hopefully we pick some good ones. So this is Martin. So you can see that he's very flamboyant. He does lots of circuits, tours, and things like that. And he's one of those. He's a resident astronomer on one of those cruise ships as well. So that's sort of. If you do cruise ships, you might get to have Martin talking to you. So let's over to the professionals. I've talked too much already. So should we go?
I think the people in the room can hear me, can't you? Oh, I've got a hoofa doofa.
Yeah, uppy down.
Uppy
Next
downy.
slide, backwards.
Oh, uppy downy. Hello. Most of you know me, I think, don't you? Jonathan H. So when you're reading your newsletter, that's me. I try and keep slightly anonymous, but
Yeah, no, I guess it's you.
I had to change the title of my talk. It was going to be eclipsing things, and then Simon reminded me that I'd actually come up with the title about 2 months earlier. So a few little bits of background. Try not to upset Prim. I've got my 1999, my original 1999 solar eclipse hat on. That's an antique now, almost.
Wow.
Principally, we're going to talk about the great North American eclipse. Is it hype? Isn't it hype? I don't know. You'll determine for yourselves shortly whether you think it's going to be the great North American eclipse. The good news is, if you miss that one, there's another one in Spain in 2026. And Tony Vail, who's not here, apparently it's going to go right over his observatory, or Andy Burns' observatory, the path of totality. So I think we'll know where we're going to be in 2026. Yeah. And we're not going to talk about eclipsing binaries either. So there you go. That's a bit of relief. I was in the loft the other day, as you do, uncovering all my original typed. I'm very much a chip off Patrick Moore. I typed everything, including the first time I ever spoke to Patrick Moore as well. But there are two things on that list. First of all was the first ever partial lunar eclipse I saw on the 4th of June 1974 from inside. I didn't even get out of the house for that one. And my first partial solar eclipse on the 29th of April 1976. This is great. I was at school. I was unable to set up my equipment. By that I mean my 1¼ inch, approximately 30 times refracting telescope. It gets very exciting. But the sun, no, this is all the health and safety stuff now, but the sun was very bright and dazzling and dangerous to look at, even with the naked eye. And my friend David Burnham tried to smoke a piece of glass by holding it over a candle, but that did not work. It was the first eclipse I'd ever seen. This is my drawing, approximate. Yay! I got the bug. I got the bug. I was blinded, but I got the bug. Now, Prim told me she cried. I cried because that's my brother. He was in France. They saw it. I hate him. I'd never forgiven him. They had an absolutely perfect view from a car park in France. I didn't. That's base camp. That's the ex-wife. I had a Practica, and I'm guessing it's probably a 400mm telephoto, and I think it was probably an 80mm Celestron. But I did have my trusty 6-inch fulloscope. But how did I see the eclipse? On that. Fortunately, behind us, or to one side of us, on this National Trust car park near Loo down in Cornwall, the guy had a little black and white TV with his caravan, and that's how we saw the eclipse. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Sense of humor. Oh no, there we go. Just to upset Prim, post totality. So I did get some pictures. And I realized after I took that, because I laid them out on the kitchen table for this presentation, I realized I got all the orientation all mixed up. So these are all, some of them are the wrong way up, basically. So these are all post totality, but at least I did get some shots through the cloud. That was without the Mylar filter on. I think that's literally just shooting through the cloud. So due to bad weather, the eclipse was cancelled by the Royal British Legion. And they put it off because of bad weather to the following day. So it's very decent of them. Bit of social history. The price of a Cornish pasty, £1.20. I thought for a minute 120 quid. I thought, well, I mean, that's expensive. £1.20 for your Cornish pasty. There you go. And that's probably tourist prices back in 1999. But you could get a small bat for £1. So there you go. So the social historians will like that. Right. Ta-da! This is what we're here for. The Great North American Eclipse, 8th of April, 2024. Cut it off slightly there. Right, look at that. Amazing. Starts off in Mexico, goes left to right, west to east. Comes shooting off across here, right the way across that. Absolutely staggering. That's just why they're calling it the Great North American Eclipse. So, according to this complete guide to the North American eclipse, the moon's shadow will be moving at 1,595 miles an hour. And the longest you're going to be able to see it for is 4 minutes 26, if you're right on the western end. And by the time it disappears off on the eastern side, it drops down to 3 minutes 22. So when you're counting your money and your airfares and your hotel bills and everything else and all your accommodation and how many cameras and telescopes you're going to take with you, you're going to have a maximum of somewhere between 3 to 4 minutes. So, you know, cost analysis, justification is, you know. So these are in well, GMT, UTC, Universal Coordinated Time, same as GMT. They don't talk about GMT anymore, do they? But anyway, so obviously there's different time zones out there, so we'll come back to that in a minute. But essentially, in Universal Time, kickoff is at 15:42, and the end of the show is at 20:52. But as I say, what you have to do when you're out there, though, is adjust it for your local times, of course, which is quite important. So, depending what you read, roughly 31 million people, they reckon, live in that path of totality, which is why it's potentially going to be the most observed eclipse from a point of view of people on the ground, humans on the ground. So I don't know whether they've allowed for all the Bath astronomers going, but they reckon about 42 million potentially could cram into that band. Don't know how they come up with those. It's wonderful, isn't it? And again, 4 minutes 26, Eagle Pass, right over to the other side. Oh, I'm zapping people. So where do you go? Who's going? Who fancies going? Oh, Prim's got a hand up. Anyone else in the room going? Guys, two. Aren't you coming, Jade?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yes. She's so impressed with the talk, she forgot to put a hand up. There you go. So three. I didn't see your hand go up there, Simon.
I'm still working on school times.
Oh, well, there's a possible. So where do you go? Where would you go? I'm looking for some feedback tonight. Where do you fancy going? Where would you go? Right across there. Well, it's kind of head and heart, kind of art and science, kind of. Well, what else are you going to do with your holiday? All that money for 4 minutes or 3 minutes. Let's pick on Texas to Missouri. Okay, so there's the bottom of Mexico. So Texas and can't even pronounce my states. Arkansas, thank you. Illinois, thank you very much. There you go. Why there, or why Mexico? Lots of people are going to Mexico. Nothing against Mexico in particular, just happen to fancy Texas myself. Little Rock or North Little Rock looks quite promising. Percentage of possible sunshine. So there you go. So looks better that end to me. Potential for cloud and rain. Now I've got a meteorologist or an ex-meteorologist in the audience here tonight, so I think we should second Merrick to come with us. But this is potential storms. That happens to be 2020, but again, it's looking a bit better over there, folks. So basically, very, very basically, the further west you are, you've got longer duration, potentially the greater chance of sunshine and clear skies, and theoretically the less chance of rain or storms. However, who knows? Sticking to Texas, on that Texas to Missouri route, I believe that's longitude along the bottom, and cloud as a fraction up the left. Or you want to look at it a different way, color coded. So the bluer it is, or the greener it is, the less cloud, and the redder it gets, the more cloud. Again, it's looking good over there. So, where do you fancy going? How about Stonehenge the Second, which exists? There it is. It's art, you see, it's art. It's art. It's in the grounds of the Hill County Arts Foundation, and I won't attempt to do an American accent there. It's on a river. There's only 1,740 people there normally. It's probably about 25,000 people there, I should think, for the eclipse. Sounds wonderful. Galleries, antique shops, boutiques. Don't know, it sounds good to me. If you're there, which is Ingram, first contact, so this is minus the 5 hours to get your local time. So if you're standing at Stonehenge the Second or somewhere near Ingram in Texas, so set your watches for 14 minutes past midday, finishes at 32 minutes past 1, the totality lasts for 4 minutes and 52, and apparently the sun's going to be 67 degrees up in the sky. Free on your Kindle. That's the word I'm looking for. Highly recommend it. I'm not on commission. There's lots of alternative publications available. That field guide's a particularly good one, actually. And there is immense resources out there. American Astronomical Society, but there's loads of stuff out there. Eclipse file was a great one I came across today. NASA's got loads of stuff, but there's all sorts of time and dates, brilliant. But there's any number of websites. The Navy have got one. I didn't have that. The American US Navy have got a particularly good one. There's all sorts of stuff you can tap into to get maps and charts and weather predictions and advice on where to go. They even have a task force. So I've signed up for their newsletter today. Or you can, it's geared to North America, but there is a box to say other. I'm from Bath in the United Kingdom, member of Bath Astronomers. So there you go. So I'll go wait and see now whether I get any response from them. We have a WhatsApp group. So if you are thinking of coming, or even if you're not planning to come, but you'd like to have some input or some suggestions or got some ideas, Tony Vale, again, I know is going, but he's doing an entirely independent trip of his own. So I'm trying to persuade him to join our group, even though he probably won't travel with us. He's going to have a holiday out of all of it, but no doubt it'd be fascinating to know what he's doing. But as I say, if you miss that one, or the business case fails on the costings for that, then perhaps a little bit closer to home, if you can wait another 2 years, maybe we'll see you in Spain and observe safely. Thank you very much. There you go. Simple as that. Questions?
What time are you with the Spanish one?
August. I've forgotten the date, but it's 18th of August. Yeah, hot. Yeah, scorpion weather if you go to Tony's and Andy Burns's observatory.
What sort of durations have they got there? Because it looked like it's the end of the year.
It was. It is. I don't know exactly. I don't think that's got the time or anything on it. Had it the other one? No, but it is. It's at the end of the path. Yeah, so it's most of it. We'll have partial in the UK. I think most of the UK is sort of in the outer bit, so there'll be a bit of a partial eclipse in the UK, but a lot of the path of totality is over water for that one. But I can't remember exactly where their observatory is now, but he is on the path of totality there. So
we could hire a boat and all go on a boat trip on the path.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd be there on Mallorca.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. So you've got yours planned. Yeah. So the Balearics, Palma, right over Palma. You might get 2 minutes as the sun sets. I don't know. Yeah, that's a very good point. We need to put the times and the altitudes and elevations on that, don't we? But I think there's more response in the room for Spain possibly than than there might be for North America. So Bath Astronomers trip to Spain in 2026. There you go. How many of us in a minibus or going down through Spain maybe?
Wait, the three of us can't travel together.
No? What in case? Oh well, we'd have to get someone else as a signatory on the account, wouldn't we? Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's our treasurer speaking. Yeah. So we're just worried that if all three of us end up sort of being struck by a large rock at Stonehenge 2, that we'll have to get someone else as a signatory on the Bath Astronomers accounts.
In other words, you need just one more person, and then everybody can go together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We'll make sure we're suitably insured. Yeah. All right, excellent. Anything else? All happy? Good, good.
Can you book my flight, Jonathan?
Not yet. No. Well, I don't know. Are we going to do a tour or are we going to go independent? This is the question. This
If
is
you're
the-
booking, I'll do whatever.
You're worried about the hotel.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
So, my name is Mark Penny. I have been a member of the Bath Astronomers Society for just over a year, so I'm quite new. But I'm also an assistant leader at the Keynsham Scout Cotswold Cub Pack. And at the beginning of this year, I asked whether the outreach team could come and give us a session on astronomy and teach our cubs some interesting and useful things, which are duly obliged on at the beginning of February, on the 1st of February, which was extremely useful. My talk this evening is just so I've got some few slides and a bit of a chat about what was done and so. I don't know whether any of you have been a Cub Scout or have been in the scouting before, but there are lots and lots of badges that our Cubs can earn. Our astronomy badge is one of these activity badges here on the right. Obviously, there's lots of those, and then they have lots of opportunities to earn badges. So most of our sessions, we try to run a session where they can earn a badge to try and get as many badges as they can, really. And as I say, and the Scouts and the Beavers as well have a similar sort of setup. So the astronomer badge. Here, this is just an outline of some of the things that they have to do to win their badge or to earn their badge. So they have to make a model or do a diagram or drawing of the solar system. They have to explain the differences between what a planet and a star is. So it's fairly basic, but it's obviously useful. We need to learn how to observe the sun safely, and also as part of that is to find out how the Earth moves around the sun, and it's the same as sort of all the planets move around the star. Then also we're looking at observing the moon through binoculars or telescopes, and we say if you can, because obviously the weather in the UK is not always the best, but we don't want to be a spoiler, but we did manage a bit, didn't we? So we also have to identify 3 constellations, and also they have a bit of homework to do before and after to find out some space related facts. The idea is just to get them interested initially into astronomy. And I think some of the Cubs really kind of got involved, and I think Jonathan, you were there, and you kind of they asked some interesting questions and gave some new interesting terms, didn't they?
Yes.
Of things. So and there was a note I found on the Scouts website was that 12 people have walked on the moon and 11 were Scouts. So it's quite important from a scouting point of view. If you want to walk on the moon, I think you've got a high chance if you've been a Scout. So the astronomer night, we had 4 people from the Bath Astronomers come and do the evening. So Jonathan, you gave the talk. We had Steve Prim and Merrick come along as well, which was really good. Some really interesting sort of discussions we had, I think, with the Cubs. In total, we had 31 Cubs, which is everyone who turned up that night in our pack is turned up, because obviously wanted to learn lots about astronomy. And there were, I think there were 7 leaders on my count, but there might be more. But so we had quite a few good turnout, really. So the evening started with Jonathan giving a really interesting and informative presentation, going through lots of different things about astronomy. So we went through some of the basic constellations. We had a bit of a lifetime of a star, the 2 different types of lifetimes we have. They all wanted a big supernova, didn't they? I think the Cubs, they were really they also we also had some examples of what the planets and stars are, and a bit of discussion around that, and then some sort of more fundamental bits about space. I mean, I don't know if you want to add anything, Jonathan, to that, but it was sort of it was very good.
They're very enthusiastic.
Yes, they kept getting closer and closer to the screen, didn't they? I think at some point. So so some Cubs had done their homework and were very knowledgeable, and as I say, they came up with some new terms, I think. I don't know if you noted any down though. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's some wonderful terminology about shapes of constellations.
Right, this one. So after we had the lovely presentation with Jonathan, Prim did a bit on planet distances, which was that's right, yes. So we started at one end of the hall. I don't have a picture of that, but we went right through to the distant planets, right down to the back of the storeroom, which was, I don't know how many, 15 meters or something. I don't know. Long way, yeah. So it was interesting. The Cubs really enjoyed it, and they were, again, very enthusiastic about wanting to take part. I think was probably
the order of the planets.
they were,
So they
yes,
were very good with their ordering.
yes, yeah, definitely.
They all wanted to be asteroids.
And a comet.
And the Kuiper belts as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Quite
Yes.
Kuiper belt, isn't it? So,
Yeah,
the
definitely.
comet, yes. That's right.
So yeah, they did well. They put the planets in order. So we gave them some pictures of the planets of the solar system and the sun to for them to see what, and they all knew straight away, didn't they? Who had all done their homework, which is great to see that some of the our youngsters do take an interest in these things. I did slip the ninth planet in, as it were, inverted commas, Pluto, but they all picked up and said that's not a planet and threw it out, which is good. So that was sort of the first half of the session, and then the second half of the session, we were very lucky that the clouds had just about parted-ish, enough to view part of the moon. So the Bath astronomers very quickly moved the telescope outside and took some binoculars, and so we were able to take each of the group. They call them sixes. So we got 5 lots of sixes. That's basically 6 Cubs in each group, and they in turn went out and spent about 5 minutes or so outside viewing the moon. And I think that was kind of like the highlight, I think, of a lot of the Cubs evening, was to actually get the chance to use the binoculars and to the telescope. And I think, to be fair, I think the leaders are more excited actually to do that than some of the Cubs. But that was really good. And then so whilst the Cubs were taking it in turns to go and see the moon outside, we had them do some art and crafts, so some art with their science. We managed to, I got them to make some Mars landers. So what I did was I gave everyone they had a cup, a paper cup, and we basically put 2 ping pong balls inside. And basically the paper cup was the lander, and the ping pong balls inside were supposed to represent a rover or some sort of scientific piece of equipment that was very precious, that you do not want to crash land onto the surface of the moon. And then we gave them some straws and some marshmallows and other bits and pieces to create something. We didn't give them any instructions other than here's some bits, off you go and see what you can come up with. And they did make some interesting things, I think, is to say the least. At the end, we were going to drop them from about so high, about a meter and a half off the ground, and the idea, like I say, is to keep the ping pong balls inside the cups. So if it's going to go, yeah, there we go, and it moves on 3. Here's got some pictures of them making their Mars landers. So they did use the plastic to create some sort of parachute, which was good. And then some of them used some of the sticks and the straws with the marshmallows underneath to use as some sort of like a cushioning as well. And we did do some good drops. Unfortunately, I haven't got any videos of those, but that would have been good to show. But pretty much most of them managed to build successfully a Mars lander, which kept the ping pong balls in place. One group did manage to basically put sellotape right across the top, which I think was a bit cheating, thing, but ingenuity, I suppose, as well. But that was really good, and I think they really enjoyed doing that. So that was basically the session. It was, I say, thanks to everyone who came to give us a hand. It was really good. I think that they would want you guys to come again if you wanted to, and say all the Cubs were really interested. And I think there was a couple of leaders that might be wanting to become members, which is also good. So which is good to see. And then I've got just a couple of slides on Keynsham Scout group, just for information more than anything else, and sending a bit, I suppose. But we're quite a well-attended group. I mean, a lot of Scout groups across the country are not well attended. They don't have many volunteers or helpers, and they often struggle quite a lot. But in Keynsham, we're very lucky. We have a very long waiting list of children that want to join. We have 2 beaver colonies that meet on a Tuesday and a Friday. So Rocky and K2, that's for children between 6 and 8 years old. There is a new group called Squirrels that have started, which is 4 to 6, but we don't have capacity in our huts to actually accommodate that. So we Keynsham haven't decided to do that yet. We have three cover packs, which is 8-year-olds to 10.5-year-olds, which is we have Chiltern, Cotswold and Quantock. They meet on a Monday, Wednesday and Thursday. So I'm involved with the Cotswolds on a Wednesday night. We then have 4 Scout Troops, which are then 10.5 to 14-year-olds, and they're even free mature and act they're called. And then we have 1 Explorer unit, which is for the older children from 14 to 18. And then we also have young leaders, which is basically people that are in the Explorer unit that want to become leaders. And so they're normally, we sort of scatter them around. They go and help out in the different beavers, cubs or Scout troops, just to kind of get involved and want to be a bit more involved. We have over 100 adult leaders in the group, which is pretty unheard of. I think it's one of the biggest groups in the country, which include both support staff and also the leaders that run the evenings. Having such a big group, we do have to have quite a lot of support staff as well. Everyone volunteers. We'll give up our free time, which is really good for the young people to experience things that they wouldn't normally do in everyday life. I've also put in here that there is our Chelwood campsite. So the Keynsham Scout group owns Chelwood campsite, which is between Marksbury and Chelwood. It's a really good space for us outdoors. We do a lot of camping there. The idea is that we can do all our activities out there, but it's also quite good for dark skies. I don't know where it sits in your dark sky picture you had earlier, but it is really, really good for viewing the night sky. And I know some of the leaders do go out there and just say, well, I'll take a flask of cocoa or whatever and just lie back and just look at the sky for a while. And something that if you want to use that space, the Bath astronomers are very welcome to come and use that. So I don't know whether you want to organise. We can organise something there. So yeah, so that's I think that's something quite useful. And this is just, I think it's probably my last slide, and this is just to demonstrate some of the other activities we do. So obviously astronomy is really good, but these are just some of this stuff that we've done this year so far. So we've done pioneering, which is basically learning to tie knots and build stuff. So yeah, we've got tying knots and reef knot there at the bottom, but sort of it's a fairly standard probably thing we do in Scouts. So it enables you to build lots of things. We've taken them to do jiu-jitsu, which a local jiu-jitsu group which is in Salford. We did the Chinese New Year where they played mahjong there, but we had different activities. So they built like Chinese lanterns and other bits and pieces. We did leadership skills. So as in this picture here, where we've basically given them some crates. They had 1 crate more than the people and had to basically go from one side of the hall to the other and work as a team. And they were doing races and things like that, which was quite good fun. They've done Taskmaster. So I don't know if any of you watched Taskmaster on Channel 4, but they basically did the same thing. The sort of head leader of the Wednesday night Cubs is really into Taskmaster, so he always gets that in whenever he can, and he likes just setting all the tasks. I think we do hikes. We've done 1 hike this year. The canoes and rafting, that's not been done this year. So far, that's going to be done in the summer down in Salford on the river. The group owns its own canoes. We also have a team of trained people that run the canoe section, which is really good. And then we've done animation, we've done disability awareness, we also do camps and things like that. And there's lots of activities we do, but this is just an example of some of the things we do. The only thing I would say when we talk about science and stuff, we don't have that much science things that get done. Obviously, there's some engineering bits going on, but as a scientist myself, I'm trying to instigate more science activities. There is a scientist badge as well that Cubs can do, but that and astronomy, that's pretty much it. So I'm trying to kind of encourage more to do that, and I'm trying to set up an activity sort of group. So, for example, like with the canoes, there's a Get Wet team. So there's a team that will just go out and do the canoeing for all of the young people. But I'm trying to set up the same for science. So astronomy will be a big part of that, and hopefully that will maybe start this year. We'll see how we go. And that's it. But yeah, just say a big thank you for Jonathan, Prim, American Steve for coming along and giving a really good outreach program. And so we'd love you to come back. And there are other groups within the Keynsham Scouts that would probably like that too. So I don't know if there's something you would want to do again, whether it was a one-off, I don't know.
Thank you very much.
Questions about Mark, and perhaps also maybe just a view of actually what it would like to contribute from the astronomer side of things. We've got 3 of our contributors, well, actually 4 of our,
All of them.
everyone was there, is here.
Yeah, I know. It's good, wasn't it?
Their enthusiasm was lovely, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's always really good to see. And Steve took along his Saturn V
Yes,
as
that's
well,
right.
which went down
Yes.
very well with a lot of them. So a lot of them were very interested.
Well, I
in
thought
that.
that lot really did the background
Yeah.
Space 5. I wasn't going to study, but a lot of
But
it
then
came up at the end.
they were very
Yeah.
And
interested,
asked
weren't
about
they?
it, and it suddenly made me realise that the next Moon programme is kicking off in the next couple of years. And it's a very similar mission to what was done. Same size rocket, similar idea.
Yeah.
So it still is relevant
It
now.
was,
And
yeah.
those youngsters are going to be living through the next moon landings in the near future.
Yeah.
But one thing I think your building is very well equipped.
Yeah.
Because that's all yours.
Yeah, it's all owned. Yeah. Well, the Astonway car park in which the Scout hut is next to was also part Scout owned, and then they basically they did a swap basically with the council to get the Chelwood site, so we could have camping because they already had this massive site anyway. So they've halved it, but it's still big for Scout, and we have it's all owned by Keynsham Scouts. So, yeah.
That's easily signed. I was volunteering this, chatting a bit more that if they're having camping weekends down there sometime maybe in the summer, because they're there at night, we can have more flexible sessions for youngsters. So
We've done that before
8
for
or
other,
9 or 10 o'clock in
other
the
troops. So
night.
we come in and we set up the telescopes. Kids feed and things like that, and then they come to the telescopes and we do sort of like an observing dash
That'd be amazing.
night sky
Yeah.
session. And camp goes on if it's cloudy. We just don't turn up that night.
We'll
So
be there anyway,
Camp,
isn't it?
yeah, sometimes camps are over a couple of nights, so sort of like doubles the chance of
Yes.
doing it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's an available service.
Yeah, it's good. I think we might take you up on that
Yeah.
service if it's there. So that'd be good. Brilliant.
Any other questions for Mark? No.
Will we be able to get copies of the presentation?
It'll be up on YouTube. Yeah. Excellent.
Brilliant.
What
Thank
was I
you.
gonna- Sorry. That thing you talk about, some Cubs and sort of scout groups, we see that, but in quite the local area, we go to some groups that absolutely ram. There's like kids after more kids after
Yeah.
more kids after more kids, and I just go maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes the other way, and they've got three Cubs turn up, and you just go, how is it you've got 3 or 4 sort of like every night you've got in that building, you've got Cubs coming in, and then just a little bit across the way, you've got no one.
Yeah.
I thought when I first thought it's something to do with leadership. It's sort of like if you create a really good body of people and sort of things, it sort of then sort of sells itself, and it just gets bigger and bigger and viral.
Yeah.
But if you're just ticking over and you haven't got that energy and it's not sort of going out, it does seem to be dying a little bit.
Yeah,
some of those
definitely.
groups.
Yeah, and it's probably like the same with most groups,
Yeah.
not just in the scouting, but in any kind of environment. I think if you've got the right sort of people leading it, then you're going to get the drive that interest, aren't you? So, and I think it's the same all over the country, really. We helped out there's a Stockwood Vale group. Just sort of towards Bristol from us, and they only have like 3 leaders that do everything. So we sometimes get involved and help them run nights where they just come to us because we have enough leaders that we can do that. It means that when we run a night, we run one session every term. So yeah, it's not as a leader because there's enough leaders. It just makes everything just a lot easier, and it means then you're not having to keep thinking about things all the time, which is good.
I was involved with Scouts. Well, I still am connected to Scouts here in Bath. Different story, but pre-COVID, and I stopped being connected to it prior to COVID, which I know is a long way back, but it starts centrally at the district area, and that then filters down, but you also had the individual groups. You also had different groups will have better or less good leaders. So it starts at that point, but it's also affected by the individual local by the group leaders as well.
Yeah, we've met some amazing characters in some of our adventures around scouts, guides, etc. The kind of ones where I walk into a room and I hear "stop" and I stop. Oh, I'm in trouble here, right? But the most lovely people. So that's one of the reasons why we enjoy going out to uniformed youth groups. I think it's a technical term.
That's good. I've not heard that before.
That's something
Yeah.
It's safe having to
It
say
covers
beavers, guys,
everywhere.
rainbows, squirrels, and all that. But
Astronomers.
we've been to
Yes, that counts.
about 6 groups so far this year.
That's very good.
So we will keep doing that and sort of hoping to inspire an interest in the STEAM subjects and just bring some people out of their shells and things. And the amount of cubs bringing their little telescopes as well, and sort of wanting. Sometimes I wish we knew about that before. We perhaps could have reserved a bit of time to do it. So perhaps in the future we need to think about how that might be a nice dimension for what we do in the future. But thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming along. Prim, are you going to be escorting people to any establishments of ne'er-do-well?
After last time, our usual pub that we go to.
So Griffin, yeah, I checked the website. It said coming soon. So I assume the website and the pub are in trouble. So you went to the Raven last time. Yeah. So if you want to join for chat and over a beer or so, then you're more than welcome to pop along to the Raven as well. But next session, as I say, is on the 18th. But I'm going to look at the diary to. We're going to have some requests for telescope workshops and things like that. So we've got a few more things in, because I think the next one is the public stargazing on the 17th of March. Our members' night on the 18th of March. So there's bound to be able to get something in before that. So I'll look at the diaries and sort out.
I've got some tickets still available for the 13th here in the evening as well.
Yes, so the discovery of Uranus just outside the garden. So the anniversary is on the 13th of March. So the museum reopens for
That's
that.
here at the museum, and
Yeah.
I think Joe's still got some tickets for that for the evening. And Tim Peake.
Oh, Tim
Well, I think
Peake,
it's
yes.
sold out. Isn't it?
Yeah, he's sold out.
Yes. So,
Is that the 8th?
yeah, a few of us are going to that. Aren't we? So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, two in the room. Looking forward to that.
There's lots to do. So and if you do get bored, just give us a shout. We'll organise something. We're talking about going to some observatories. I think is it Blackett Observatory we were discussing, popping over to Marlborough. I was talking to the Marlborough Dark Skies people today. They haven't got funds to run the Dark Sky Festival this year. But they sort of said, well, you've got no ideas. So I threw some ideas at them and they suddenly went, well, we'll do that. So I may have got us in trouble when doing lots over in Marlborough this coming summer. But the more the merrier. They've got lots of energy. They just don't have the funds. Well, we can do stuff for free. So we'll see what we can do. Any problems, just give us a link. Whether it's outreach at Bath Astronomers, hello at Bath Astronomers, hit a WhatsApp group. I don't think I've published the American WhatsApp group one. I think that's more private at the moment, isn't it? So perhaps we can get that into the newsletter the end of this month. If you've got any articles for the newsletter, let us know. Just fire them through again at hello@bathastronomers.org.uk. We'll take anything. Mostly have to take the stuff that Jonathan likes. So anything else would be great. The stalwart of the newsletter.
We need art.
We need arty stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Although if you check out the arts competitions and things, the astrophotography, for me that's art. They judge on art, but it's all science. The subjects are all science, very rich science, very huge amounts of data compressed into those images. But the reason why they're winning, and people are winning, is because of the artistic interpretation that's placed on top of that. And so that's a wonderful sort of thing.
I'm going to bring some sausage rolls on the 18th.
Excellent.
That's
right.
Oh,
So when
that's
we
it.
pass these,
That's it.
I don't know, but we'll round 20.
Done deal.
Well, the-
Who's got the cheese with the sort of like
Oh,
little
yes.
bit of pineapple on?
Pineapple,
Louis?
Oh,
Stuck in the potato covered in tin foil.
Yeah.
I remember those.
Well, I hope you're all looking for it. It'll be a nice evening. I say we'll have Merrick in his three-piece suit escorting people in and out of the plant area until
Wear it.
we'll probably have a bit of a scoreboard up for actually the messier objects as they're discovered. So rather than individuals trying to get as many as possible, let's do a group effort trying to do it. And we can mark those off. And if you see that there's a whole area of the sky that's not being covered, then perhaps you want to take that particular constellation and see if you can nab those ones and see if as a group we can get a huge count that night. That'd be great. Okay, well, thank you very much. And I hope to see you very soon. Thanks all.
Thank you.